All right, thank you very much, Frank. It was partially because we didn't get as much rain as we thought, and partially because of dams and flood control that Toronto didn't get hit hard on the weekend. But Melanie, it doesn't mean that other areas didn't get flooded out.
That's right, Kev. Communities right across Canada struggling right now with spring flooding, including here in Ontario. Minden declaring a state of emergency. Parts of Minden right now underwater. Several streets have been closed because they're considered dangerous. People are being told to steer clear. Both the Gull and the Burnt River systems are at the top of their banks, and water levels are expected to remain high as water moves down from upper lakes and creeks. The town warning residents to have an evacuation plan in place and to keep 72 hours worth of emergency supplies on hand. Already, the township has handed out more than 10,000 sandbags to help people protect their homes. And coming up shortly here this morning, Tammy Sutherland will be live in Minden with a report on how the township is dealing with this devastating flooding. And Montreal declaring a state of emergency yesterday afternoon, the latest municipality in Quebec to do so because of flooding. It includes a mandatory evacuation for several hundred people. More than a dozen schools will also remain closed today, and several streets and bridges are closed to traffic. Nearly 2,000 homes have been flooded in the province, and the Canadian military has deployed about 1,200 troops to help in flood prevention. 2 men are missing in flooding in the southern interior of British Columbia. 59-year-old Fire Chief Cassidy Clayton has been missing for 2 days in Cache Creek. It's believed he was swept away by a swollen waterway just west of Kamloops. And a 76-year-old man also missing after his home north of Salmon Arm was enveloped in a mudslide. While flooding has subsided in some districts, there is still the possibility it could get worse in other areas because of rain and snow melts. Pride Toronto clarifying its position when it comes to police participation in this year's parade, saying that officers are not banned. However, uniforms, weapons, and cruisers are not welcome. The organization releasing a statement last night that reads in part, LGBTQ police officers and their allies can march in the parade with community groups, with the City of Toronto, or even create their own group. We are simply requesting that their participation not include the following elements: uniform, weapons, and vehicles. Banning uniformed officers from marching in the parade was one of the demands Black Lives Matter made when they brought the event to a halt last year, staging a protest in the middle of its street. Pride Toronto says its executive director will be attending today's economic development meeting to call on the city to continue funding the parade. This comes after Toronto Police Union sent an open letter to City Council last month asking it to withdraw that money. Uber is reportedly launching a driverless car project here in Toronto, the first ever test hub of its kind outside of the United States. According to the Toronto Star, the driverless technology research program will be led by the University of Toronto. Uber has similar projects on the road in American cities like Pittsburgh and San Francisco. So far, Uber has not confirmed when customers here in Toronto will be able to get a ride in one of their driverless vehicles. Last year, Ontario became the first province in the country to allow on-road testing of driverless cars, as long as the projects get government approval and a human must be behind the wheel. The Houston Rockets' Patrick Beverley taken to the court with a heavy heart after the death of his grandfather. Beverley found out about his grandfather's death just before yesterday's Game 4 against San Antonio Spurs, but still decided to play. He finished with 10 points and 6 assists, and after the game spoke about the loss and the close relationship with his grandfather.
It's so tough, man, 'cause everybody know I work so extremely hard to prove myself each and every night, and to have somebody that was right there supporting me the whole way, wore my jerseys every single day of his life. Anyone who has, grandparents, mothers, whatever, to have them taken away from you is super, super hard.
The Rockets won the game 125-105 to even the series at 2 games apiece.